episode of the Inner City Mindset podcast. We have Freddy Rojas. Freddie's probably one of the top prospects to come out of the city. He attended Monroe High School in the Bronx, and that speaks volumes, right? Monroe's always known for producing great quality talent, and I would say honestly that Freddie's probably one of the most talented guys to come out of that program. He's always been well respected by his graduating class, and I honestly think that Freddie, you definitely represented New York City baseball in a very positive way. So we're super proud of you, man. I kind of just
Thank
want to
you.
kind of start off, with your early life and baseball beginnings, man. Tell me about your Brooklyn roots. Tell me about how it was growing up in Brooklyn. What kind of first drew you to the game of baseball, and and what environment really influenced you to fall in love with the game?
For me, really, I was kind of born into baseball. My dad played professionally, my uncle played professionally, so it was just something that was always there. From what I can remember, I've always played baseball, and I remember that my first ever team that I played for was the Brooklyn Bonnies.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
So
after the Bonnies, I think at like 7, 8, I played with the High Heat Kings, and then after that, I moved on to the Bronx Bombers, and I played with them until I left to college. And
awesome.
in that, go ahead.
I'm sorry, guys.
And then in that time period when I was with the Bronx Bombers, that's when everything just took off for me, like
Gotcha.
recruiting wise, and just learning the game of baseball to get to the next level
Sure.
ultimately.
And obviously, I'm pretty sure that you played with the Brooklyn Bonnie when you lived in Brooklyn, correct? But I know you told me that you
Yeah.
moved to the
Yes.
Bronx, right? So is that when you decided to play for the Bronx Bombers, after that, after you and your family moved to the
No,
Bronx?
I played with the Bronx Bombers still while living in Brooklyn.
Oh wow! So I can only
Hmm.
imagine that commute, you
Yeah.
know, practices, games, so it was always a
Hmm.
big sacrifice from a very young age. I'm guessing, right?
Hmm.
That's awesome, man. Obviously, right when your family moved to the Bronx, you know, it was much better for you, right? Because you attended Monroe, right? So the commute was a lot closer. However, you did tell me that you were still commuting from Brooklyn to Monroe, right? Because you guys moved after you made that switch to go to Monroe high school, right? So how was that commute for you growing up from Brooklyn all the
Uh,
way to the Bronx, play high school baseball?
at first it was hard because when I was going to school in the Bronx, we were still living in Brooklyn, so I would just have to wake up extremely early
Wow,
just to get there. Train delays and all that. So, but once we moved back, it made it much easier because once we moved to the Bronx, I only lived like 2, 3 stops away from Monroe.
gotcha,
And that
gotcha.
was a blessing. But then
Right,
we ended up moving back to Brooklyn. So my senior year, I had to travel back. But at that point, it was a lot easier because I didn't really have to get to school that early because I already
Mhm,
had all my credits and stuff. So it wasn't that bad. But
gotcha,
during earlier year of high school, it was tough, especially in the cold.
gotcha. That's rough, and obviously, the commuting is very difficult. However, I'm sure that you were very fortunate to know that you had a really solid program. Monroe's obviously one of the top baseball programs in the city. And tell me about your time there. Tell me how that program prepared you for the next level of baseball.
It honestly just it taught me how to become a leader. Because when I got there, It I joined leadership with one of my teammates, Jason. Like me and him played together growing up our whole life. And it just taught me how to be a leader because guys followed behind us and they looked for us to do what we had to do in order to carry the team where we had to do it. And obviously it was an all team effort, but we did a lot of the pushing for them and making sure guys did what they had to do for us to be successful.
Gotcha. And I'm sure you play for Mike Toro, correct?
Yes.
And tell me about his mentoring and what type of impact he made on your life both on and off the field.
Turo, he's a great guy. He's been there so many years, so he's a legend. So being able to play for a legend like that is something you appreciate. He's a well respected man in all aspects, and besides baseball, he just wants us to be good people in life, do the right things, and that's what he really pushed us to do. Just become good young men.
That's awesome, bro. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the recruiting process for you. I know for a lot of inner city athletes here in the city, taking a junior college route is, definitely like a really solid route, especially if you're looking to get drafted early, right? What was the vision for you, early on? Was the vision to go to a nationally ranked JUCO and then potentially get drafted from there? Or did you originally already have plans of going straight to a 4-year school and then getting drafted from a 4-year program?
So for me, like the recruitment was kind of weird. I didn't really get recruited till late. So I committed to my JUCO as a junior. That doesn't really happen because it's
Mm,
like people usually do it later. I did it early because I wasn't really getting the attention from like schools and like the ones that did I'm gonna be honest, like I didn't have the grades to get into them. So I couldn't. And
mm,
then once senior year came, that's when like all my grades got better and stuff, and that's when those Division Ones started coming.
gotcha.
And but at that point, I just like I felt like I needed to honor my JUCO commitment, and I was like, I'd rather just go there and then just develop, and whatever happens, happens.
Awesome. And that program that you committed to was Hillsborough Community College,
Mhm.
which is always nationally ranked. You did some great things there, right? I believe you hit 277, 3 home runs, like 27 RBIs. Those are great numbers at a program like that. And it's a very tough conference. You know, tell me about that program. Tell me about that first year for you, both on and off the field.
I always tell people my freshman year, that's the best baseball team I've ever played with in my life. Like I was obviously the younger guy. A lot of the team was heavily sophomores, and they just taught me a lot. Like a lot of them just taught me how to play the game the right way, the things I needed to do to be good, how to have a routine, and it's honestly it helped me for my further years because those guys they knew what they were doing, and on that team we had 7 draft picks that year,
Wow,
and 3 of them have made their major league debut. So like I've learned from guys that knew what they were doing.
that's awesome. Yeah, I think like being in a positive environment and being pushed on a daily basis is huge, right? Like, I've always said that if you're surrounded by, great guys that work hard, are disciplined and, and work out like pros, like, you're only going to get better, right? You're only going to get stronger and you're going to learn to play the game the right way. So I'm glad that you had that experience. And, obviously, shortly after you went to Monroe Community College, how were things different between Hillsborough and Monroe?
It was it was completely different in the aspect of like where I was at, the area.
Gotcha.
But at Monroe, when I got to Monroe, that's when like I had to become a leader again, because I went
Mm,
from being at a top tier program to what people consider, because people don't look at Monroe as like top tier, but in reality it is. It's just in
right.
New York. That's the only thing.
Mhm.
And then in Monroe, that's when like again I had to use my leadership. The coach that was there, the hitting coach Elliot Ayala, I known him for since I was a little kid, and he like mentored me basically like how to like be a pro at that point and how to carry myself. And at Monroe's really when I feel like I took off a little more because now I wasn't playing behind somebody. I was the guy. So
Right.
I did what I had to do, and then that year we ended up going to the World Series.
That's awesome.
So that was just a blessing for that too.
That's awesome. And listen, I'm sure that the leadership played a major role. Because we all know that making it to the World Series is not an easy task,
You
right?
know.
Especially with all the talent that's across the Division One JUCO level. So, honestly, like Ahmad, you're probably, you're a legend there at Monroe, right? So, I'm sure a lot of those guys appreciate your leadership. And, I kind of wanted to talk about, you know, the Division One opportunity you had at the 4-year level, right? Obviously, you attended the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, right? And, that was probably like a huge opportunity, for you to have like more eyes on you, like more pro scouts on you. You know, you had an incredible stretch of hitting 6 home runs, right, in 6 games. Can you kind of walk me through, you know, that time frame, how you managed to stay locked in at the plate around that time, and what type of support you had both on and off the field during that stretch?
So that week that happened, it was kind of like surreal because that doesn't really happen.
Right.
And one person that I always like thank for this is Richie Palacios because
Okay.
me and him always talking and I ask him questions. And I remember that the week before we had played UT, University of Texas, and I had asked him, I'm like, curious, like, when do you start loading? Like, what spot do you pick? Something like that. I asked him, and then he told me, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna try it out, see what happens. And then from there on, I had that 2 week stretch where like it was insane. So I thank him a lot for that because that was just a small cue that helped me go and do what I do. But I can't. It's hard for me to explain what I was doing because it just happened so fast. Those days just went by.
Gotcha. No, that's awesome, man. Like, it's always nice to hear when New York City guys are leveraging each other because, as you know, right, we don't have as many resources as guys that play down in Texas, Florida, right, on the West Coast in California. So we really need to leverage each other, right? So I think it's really cool that you guys had that bond and you guys kind of like pick each other's brains. So, um, you finished second in school history, right? Home runs, right,
Mm-hmm.
at
Oh
this
yeah,
program.
for right now.
For now, right? Hopefully that record stays there. You know, tell me what that meant for you on a personal level because I feel like a lot of New York City guys, we know we have you know Division 1 talent. However, when you're actually producing, right, and you get the opportunity to be yourself and show out, it's a different feeling, right? So tell me what that meant for you on a personal level.
It meant a lot to me because I remember in the fall of my junior year, like our hitting coach, he put out a list of like these are records that we have here, whatever. And then when I
Hmm.
saw it, I was like, all right, that's my personal record. Like I wanna be able to break the school record in homers. I didn't get to break it, but I can't. I'm in second now because well, actually I'm in third now because my teammate broke it last year while he was
Okay,
here. So, but that was a personal goal of mine to do that, and that was just I trained for that, and that was my mentality. Like, all right, I'm not gonna try to hit home runs, but my goal is to break that record. So
that's
I
awesome.
just pushed myself to do that.
Gotcha. Nice, nice. And now we transition over to professional baseball, right? You had the opportunity to play for the Williamsport Crosscutters, and this was an MLB Draft League, right? Tell me what that summer did for you in terms of your development on the field.
It was a small sample size of what pro ball is like.
Okay.
Because you didn't in the draft league, we didn't play many. We only played like about 35 games around there. So
Mhm.
that's a small sample size of what pro ball actually is. But with the managers all being ex major leaguers or ex pro baseball players, it was just all like basically like development. Them teaching us how to be pros and how to carry ourselves as pros and how to be able to maintain that long season. So I would say it's just definitely set me up for this summer that I had. It was just a small sample size of, all right, look, this is what pro ball is like. You got your taste now. Let's see if you can go out and actually do it.
For sure, for sure. And yeah, I'm sure definitely like, prepare you for the Pioneers League, right? And this past year you were playing for the Great Falls Voyagers. Tell me what that experience was like for you. And can you share like any memorable moments or learning experience that you might have had?
It was honestly, this is the best. This summer was the best baseball I've ever played.
Wow.
Like, if this was the summer that people were like, all right, we want to see Freddie break out, I had it. And
Nice.
like, obviously, I feel like I could have done even more, but I'm definitely grateful for what I did do this summer. It was just, it's a grind because we play every day. Like, your only off day is Monday, but to be able, your mentality has to be at another level to be able to stay consistent every single day and go out there and perform. Like, your body could be tired, something's hurting, but you still got to go out there and perform because if not, somebody gonna come and take your job. And
For
at
sure.
this level, like, they taking food off your plate, so I can't let that happen.
Right, right, for sure. Like I think that adjusting to pro ball is everything. And obviously you see a lot of college guys that really want those opportunities and they think they could produce at the professional level. However, what piece of advice do you have for those guys in terms of like the differences between college ball and pro baseball?
The difference for me, I feel like the main difference will be is just the mentality, right? There's not gonna be people there babysitting you, telling you what to do.
Hmm.
In college, obviously, like there's coaches and there's a practice plan, this and that. In pro ball, there's a plan, but you
Right.
do it if you want. Nobody's gonna force you to do it.
Hmm.
Like, obviously we have like our mandatory things, but at the end of the day, it's on you to do what you got to do to be able to go out there and perform.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
it's gonna definitely be a mentality thing. That's
Okay.
what I think. If you're mentally tough enough to do it, you should be fine.
So, yeah, I mean, listen, the mental aspect of the game is everything, right? Like, I feel like, especially in indie ball, people kind of like forget of like all the sacrifices that you make, you know, um, to take on this opportunity. People kind of think like, oh, well, yeah, like, Freddie's playing pro ball, like, he's lit out there, right? However, you start to see with time less and less support, right? You're no longer like at a big university where you have a bunch of kids on campus, just
Mm.
praising you, right? Um, Now like you're on your own, right? And the older you get, you start to question yourself, like, man, like, should I continue to still pursue this dream of mine? Some guys I'm sure that you play with, started families already. They might have children, right? So they feel like maybe they should be more of a provider right now. Maybe they should stop this path and start working and maybe provide for their families. So tell me about like the isolation aspect, like especially you're far away from family, and familiar faces. Like, how do you deal with the isolation and the mental grind of being away from home while pursuing this dream?
Luckily for me, having the support of my parents is really big.
Yes.
Like they support me a lot in what I'm doing, and they've done it since I was my whole life. But mostly since I've been away from home, I left home at 17. So since then, there's been always like, go do what you got to do. We'll help you as much as we can, but we know that you're chasing a dream. So that helps me a lot. And obviously, like as you get older, like you see your friends that are not playing no more, they doing things, and you're like, dang, I can't do those because I'm doing this. But it's a sacrifice. I chose this life, and this is what I'm gonna do until I can't no more, honestly. And it's
Right.
just you gotta, if you really want to do this, you gotta forget about all that outside stuff because you're gonna have time for it when it comes. But
For
as
sure.
of right now, like I gotta focus on what's my career, and this is what I chose to do.
Yeah, you gotta lock in. And I love that you mentioned your parents, right? Like, I think family support is big, right? And I will never forget, that first year, right, freshman year. Um, when I had the opportunity to play in Illinois, and just leaving my parents, I just remember being super emotional, right? Tell me about that experience for you. Were your parents able to make the trip with you down to Florida, or did they kind of just drop you off at the airport? Like, you know,
Unfortunately, not I. They dropped me off at the airport. They didn't come
okay,
with me. So it's tough. Like especially like my situation where like I had younger siblings that like are really young. I didn't meet my sister till she was about almost 3 years old. So like
okay,
stuff like that,
wow,
like missing out on my siblings, like growing up, like I only see them on FaceTime most of the time. So that's definitely hard. And then like it's just different thing like let my grandparents get sick or I'm not there for those stuff because I'm away playing, but it's all a sacrifice.
for sure,
And
for
I
sure.
feel like at the end of it, you got to be okay with sacrificing this thing if you want to make it to where you want to go.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that response. Yeah, again, like everybody's going through personal things, so I think it's so important to just like even watch how we treat other people. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like one of your teammates might be having a rough day at the plate, but who knows, right? What else that person might be going through, at home, his family.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you for sharing that. Now, I kind of want to talk about like this uncertainty in this journey, right? Obviously there's no guarantee, right? There's no guarantees, right? When it comes to this path to make it to the majors, especially like in minor league baseball, right? And a lot of indie ball players are also like chasing this dream to hopefully get signed as a professional into MLB team. How do you mentally stay strong and avoid feeling overwhelmed? Um, when you're pursuing this dream.
For me, it's just believing in believing in God has a plan for me and controlling what I could control.
Nice.
I only thing I could do is go out there and do what I got to do to the best of my ability. And I can't control the outcome sometimes, but I know that the Lord has a plan for me, and whatever that plan is, I'm gonna follow it. And so that's what helps me just stay positive and keep going.
I love that. I love that. I feel like if you stay on that path, if you have that mentality, there's no way you could lose, right? Even if the outcome isn't what you thought it would be, right? So I love that mindset. And I kind of wanted to transition to a topic that you know a lot of people usually don't feel very comfortable speaking about, right? But I want to talk about like the financial aspect, of playing indie ball. Sometimes you see a lot of, even in college, you see a lot of guys that don't have that stability, right? Like I remember in college, right? I'll do DoorDash, right? My parents always took care of me, However, I like to hustle for myself, right? Now, when it comes to indie ball, I'm talking about grown men, right? Mid-20s, some guys in their early 30s, they might have families, right? Without the stability, that comes with a major league contract, how do players in indie ball cope with financial pressures of staying in the game?
Uh, I can't speak for other guys because I'm not
Hmm.
sure about their financial stuff. But for me, it's just being smart with whatever money it is that they give us,
Hmm.
right? And then hustling. Like, if you gotta do DoorDash, you gotta do DoorDash. If it's do remote lessons, you do remote lessons. But you gotta get it. You gotta do what you gotta do
Right,
in order to stay at least financially stable to eat and get the stuff that you need, like your equipment and things, because that stuff isn't provided really. You got to get it on your own.
right,
So
right.
it's just hustling. Honestly, you gotta be a hustler in all aspects.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I appreciate you being honest about that because, like, some guys think like, oh, I had it good, when I was playing Division One baseball, right? So to them, it's like, oh, well, if I'm gonna be playing pro baseball for an independent league, I'm be treated even better, right? Is that always the case, or not really?
Depending on, I guess, depending on where you are. Um, I can't speak for other organizations, but I know the ones I've played for, they've done their best to
Hmm.
treat us as best as they can with what they have.
Right,
Now, obviously, it's not college, but they do the best that they can.
for sure.
At the
And
end of the day,
obviously,
we're there to play baseball. We're not there to get pampered. So,
exactly, exactly. And obviously, like the resources and the funding that a lot of college programs have, a lot more,
hmm
obviously, than some of these independent leagues. So I appreciate that response. Now, obviously, I'm sure you've seen it in college, right? But in indie boy, you're gonna deal with this too. They're full of highs and lows, right? So when you face a slump, right? When you're facing a setback, whether that's an injury or struggling at the plate, how do you keep your confidence and avoid kind of like spiraling mentally?
it's hard. It's really, especially if you're in a slump, it's hard because when you're hitting and you're in a slump, it feel like you got two strikes every time. But you just have to believe in yourself and just tell yourself, like, you go over, tomorrow's a new day,
Hmm.
and that's we give you play every day, right? So tomorrow a new day, and you go back out there and do what you got to do, and
Sure.
not chase something that's not possible. Like, you're not gonna get a hit every at bat. You got to be okay with that in your mind. Know that you're not gonna get a hit every at bat. But as long as you hitting the ball hard and having good at bats, that's the mentality I feel that you should have. Because one, you can't control that they catch a ball that you hit hard. Like, the amount of times I've lined out in the gap or something and they've caught it, and then I hit a dribbler and I'm safe as if for a hit. It's insane, but that's just the game of baseball. It's crazy. So
Right.
you just kind of just got to stay mentally strong in that aspect and just go out there and be the best that you can be.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And obviously having a support system, like you mentioned earlier, is super important. So, like, what piece of advice when it comes to a support system you have, like those college guys that, freshman year in college, right? They're getting exposed to a lot. They're meeting, different, groups of people. I know it's so important to just have like a solid team of support around you and not to get kind of like, stuck in a negative crowd. Tell me about how having a positive support system is not only beneficial when you're playing pro ball, but also at the college level.
I feel like at the college level is even more important because, like, as a freshman, that's where it could make or break you, right? Is you a freshman, you go, let's say you go away for college, you freedom. Nobody's here to tell you when you got to go to sleep, what time you got to be back. And you couldn't just go out and do whatever you want. I did it. Like, when I
Mhm.
was a freshman, I would go out all the time. Come, like, nobody's telling me what to do.
Right.
But and there's not a problem with that. Like, but as long as you're able to do what you gotta do with your schoolwork and perform at the on the baseball field, then you fine. But if you're a person that can't juggle all that stuff, then you gotta pick what's more important to you, and hopefully it's the
Absolutely.
baseball and
And
school
I feel
side.
like, right, hopefully, and I feel like that's why a lot of even parents are very hesitant to send their kids very far away. Maybe they know, obviously they know their kids better than anyone, right?
Mhm.
So when you send your kid, 30 hours away, right, 30-hour drive away, or in my case, it was an 18-hour drive in Illinois, New York. You know, my parents obviously they were a little worried, but they knew I was very like, mature, independent. However, some parents know that their kids have a lot of work to do in terms of maturity. So it's super important. It's tough to balance, academics, um, and the athletic aspect of it. So, I think that's great advice. And I kind of wanted to talk about, for you personally, like what kind of keeps you going, right? Like, despite adversity, the isolation, you being alone out there in Texas, and the mental toll, what is it that really keeps you going? What keeps you motivated, to continue, at this dream?
I would have to say is my drive for wanting to get there, and
Hmm.
my little siblings really. Like I want to keep giving them, being a good example for them, and showing them that like no matter what, like don't give up on your goals and just keep going. Like obviously, there's gonna come a time where that's it. Like baseball's done. But
Yeah,
while I'm still doing it, I'm gonna show them that I can go out and do what I have to do and be a good role model for my siblings. So it's really for them.
that's awesome, bro. Like, again, there's a whole generation of youth that are looking up to you, right? And most of the time, right, it starts in your home, and being a positive example for everybody that you touch, right? So, that's a beautiful response. And obviously, when it comes to this game, like, we all kind of want to leave a legacy in one way or the other, right? And, for you, like, you already did that at multiple universities, right? So, you know, when it comes to like looking ahead, right? What are your, what type of impact do you want to, have on this game, especially when it comes to helping other athletes deal with the mental and emotional challenges of being a pro?
Honestly, I just want to be looked at as someone that like I went out there every day and played the game the right way
Hmm.
and did what I had to do and just be a good example for the young guys, teaching them how to do things the right way, guiding them in the best way possible that I can, and then just showing them that like there's a lot out there for you to see. You just gotta stick to it and be positive, honestly, because there's gonna be a lot of adversity thrown your way. You just gotta stay positive and just roll with the punches, because not everything is gonna be easy.
For sure. And, you know, Freddie, like, I could tell you have great character. Like, you've always been a solid role model for a lot of young people in your community. What piece of advice do you have to those young kids that really kind of struggle with their emotions on that baseball field, right? Like, I've seen so many guys get crossed off by college coaches because they like to throw bats, they like to throw helmets. They kind of get a little rowdy between those fences, right? And sometimes that could lead to trouble, right? No college coach wants a cancer on their team, you know. So, what piece of advice do you have to like inner city athletes that have dreams of playing Division 1 baseball?
It would just be like it's not worth it. Like it's really not worth it. Especially us coming from New York, we already have a stereotype to us, so that just gives them even more reason to be like, okay, yeah, we don't want him. Like it's not worth it because at the end of the day, you have to realize you're not perfect. You're not gonna strike everybody out if
Hmm.
you're a pitcher, and you're not gonna hit a home run every time you hit. It's not just not realistic, right?
Right.
And I would just say be realistic with yourselves and play the game the way you play it. Everybody's different. If you a person that's a home run hitter, then you do that. If you a person that's more of a contact hitter, then you do that. Don't try to be someone that you're not, and
Right.
just stay yourself.
That advice, right? That piece of advice right there, like, don't try to be something that somebody that you're not. That's everything, right? Like, I preach that. You see so many young kids, both on and off the field, that are out here trying to be somebody that they're not, and it's sad, bro. You know, it's very sad. Like, you see so many kids out here with so much so many, so much talent and abilities. However, they might not have the right mentoring
Mhm.
or the right guidance. And guess what, bro? In college, it takes one. You get one opportunity at a lot of these programs. Because, like you said, you already have a target on your back. And the moment you slip up, these coaches will not hesitate to send you, right back home, bro. And you know, I will always repeat, like, there's nothing sadder, bro, than getting an opportunity to play at a solid college and get school paid for, and now you're back home, with all these excuses, right?
Mhm.
If that coach recruited you, he wants you to be successful. He or she wants you to be successful. Period. So it's sad when these kids don't take full advantage of that opportunity. So again, I feel like you've been a solid role model for these young, very talented athletes. Like I was at the PSL championship game at Yankee Stadium, and there was talent all over that field, right? So, bro, New York City baseball is still very much alive. Now it's all about giving these kids the opportunity to showcase that talent, across the country, right? And Freddie, when it comes to like looking ahead, right? What are your immediate and long term goals in your professional career? Like, do you have specific, like a specific focus or area of improvement for next season?
As in like ability, like like me, like stat goals, like you say,
Stat
or
goals, like natural physical abilities. Like, do you want to increase your pop at the plate, speed, your defensive game?
honestly, just keep getting better in all aspects of the game,
Mm,
right? And at this point where I am in my career, it's just I have to just keep on being able to produce. So just keep getting better in any aspect possible in the game to show that I'm I'm useful at some point because I'm not getting any younger. So
mm,
I gotta be able to show that I'm able to produce in any way possible. That way somebody could possibly give me a chance.
gotcha, gotcha. And what's one thing that like you're most proud of? Obviously, like this has been a very long journey, right? Um, you've been at least since 2018, right?
17, yeah.
Or 17, right? You know, like what are you most proud of, right? Um, as you embarked on this journey.
A goal of mine was always not to become a statistic. I always
Okay.
called it that. I didn't want to be a statistic, and I feel like me getting my master's is the most thing that I'm most proud of.
Wow.
Because I didn't. I always from high school, I would always see like guys like you were saying like oh come back from college, and they would always all of them always said the same thing, and I'm like, and I always thought to myself like all these coaches can't be that way because
Hmm.
everybody's saying the same thing. So I always just told myself I don't want to be one of the New York statistics.
Gotcha. So like guys will come back and kind of like
Oh, like the coach doesn't like me or he's racist or like stuff like that. And then that's when I was just like, not every coach could be like that. And it's possible. There's probably is coaches that way, but not every single coach is that way. So
for
I guess
sure, for
just I
sure.
didn't want to be. I didn't want to be part of that group.
Gotcha. And I feel the same way. Obviously, like you might have to deal with ignorance. Sometimes both on and off the field, right? Especially for us, like inner city kids, traveling across the country, um, on a coach bus where these are places we've never been to, right? Rural America, and it could be a culture shock for us sometimes, right? But you're right, bro. Like I had to, I felt the same way. Like I really wanted to not only prove it to, to others, right, but to myself. Like and holding myself accountable as well. I feel like the lack of accountability is a major issue as well. You know, a lot of young people right now, like, and it starts at home. Nobody's holding them accountable, right? It's always somebody else's fault, and that's a major issue. So I'm glad that you mentioned that because I had the same mindset, and thank God, like I was also able to pursue, a master's grad, did my MBA. So I'm that's probably one of my most, my proudest moments. And Freddie, man, like I'm super proud of you, bro. Thank you for all you do for the youth, in your community as well. And the last question I have for you is like, you know, what would you tell yourself, right? Like being that, 17, 18-year-old kid, getting ready to leave New York, on your way to Florida, to Hillsborough Community College. Like, I'm sure you had a lot of emotions and maybe even fears, right? What would you tell to that kid that was probably a little bit afraid and anxious? If you to look back.
To not give up, and that at the end of the day, it's all gonna be worth it. Just trust the Lord and control what you can control, but don't give up.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Freddie. Thank you so much for your time. Again, we're proud of you, bro. Continue to work hard. Continue to put up numbers. I see you out there killing it. And at the end of the day, right? Like, you know, this experience that you're having, is gonna allow you to make an even bigger impact on the next generation, right? Because this is an experience that most guys don't have the opportunity to pursue. So take full advantage of it, man. Have fun, right? Continue to stay close to your family and friends, and I wish you the best of luck, right?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
For
And
sure.
hopefully, what we talked about, it could impact a kid or two.
Absolutely. I feel like if it makes an impact on just one kid, right?
Hmm.
This interview was well worth it, right? So
Yes.
thank you again for your time, brother. All right.
Thank you.